start.
Welcome to the Wellesley Fire Department's town meeting presentation. I am Fire Chief Rick DeLaurie and will be narrating this presentation for you. I will provide a brief overview of the fire department's operations, our staffing, and our priorities. This is the organizational chart of the Wellesley Fire Department. We have the fire chief and the assistant fire chief in administration. We have one administrative assistant and one mechanic. Our mechanic is a specialized emergency vehicle apparatus mechanic. He's certified to work on fire apparatus and all our specialized equipment. He's a highly valued member of our team. Moving down, we have 4 working groups. We have the deputy chief, group A, B, C, and D. Each deputy chief has a specialty area as well. Administrative services, apparatus and equipment, whether it's repair, maintenance, testing, or purchasing of new equipment, training and development, communications and inspections is another, and information technologies, another deputy's responsibility. And each lieutenant moving down supervises an engine or a ladder company and the crews assigned to that. In the middle, we have a deputy fire inspector and fire prevention. I'll go in more detail on that. Under that, we have a lieutenant fire inspector in the fire prevention office, and another slide before I provide more detail on that particular department. This slide represents the national staffing standards for the fire service. Wellesley Fire Department staffs 13 personnel per group. One group is short 1 firefighter, and we're requesting the consideration of adding this position in FY22. The national standard response for a single room fire is 15 personnel on the initial response. For example, Needham was recently awarded a federal grant that added 8 personnel to meet the national staffing standards, and that brought each shift staffing to a complement of 17 personnel. I do recognize that 2 firefighters assigned to an ambulance, so it brings them down to 15, and they are a comparable sized community. There are federal grants available that cover 75% of the payroll and benefits for 2 years, and this is something the town should consider moving forward to meet the standards. Wellesley Fire Department responded to 4,226 emergency calls for service, and we train every day. We've had a number of fires this year, a number of major home fires and commercial fires. The top left represents a fire that occurred on a home on Mayo Road. Top center was an 8-alarm fire involving the Wellesley Tower and an engine that started approximately 2 a.m. and burned well into the next day in downtown Natick. There were fire departments from a dozen communities responded to try assist to put that fire out. The top right picture represents an accidental fire started on a home on Washburn Ave. The fire was contained to the garage, but there was also smoke damage and structural damage that while we access the hot spots to that home. The bottom left is Durant Road fire. That home was under construction and it was almost completed. The floors had been refinished. Some of the materials left behind were combustible, and spontaneous combustion has led to the cause of that fire. The bottom right is 188 Washington Street, a detached garage. It had a vintage car inside it, unfortunately, which was a total loss, both the garage and the vehicle. The home, as you can see, is in close proximity, so we had crews out back that were cooling off the house, trying to keep the fire from migrating to the adjacent structure. That's a very tight area, so there were other houses and structures in proximity. We got significant mutual aid and knocked that fire down very quickly. The bottom right represents a Washington at State Street manhole explosions. We believe it was caused by a wire shortage. There were no gas readings in the area, but there was a possibility and a theory that maybe some gas accumulation had built up over time, but we were unable to detect any gas leaks in that particular area at that time. So we could only attribute the gas explosions to an electrical issue. An update on fire stations and apparatus. Fire headquarters and Station 1 at Central Street. Both stations are in good shape due to the efforts of the firefighters' daily assigned maintenance work, but it's also important to recognize FMD, Joe McDonough and Mike Santangelo, providing additional services to sanitize our buildings with deep cleaning and sanitizing our contact surfaces. This is extremely helpful due to the number of staff working at Wellesley Fire 24 hours a day. Firefighters and medics have increased exposure to COVID-19 given our contact with patients. We need to keep staff healthy to staff sufficient firefighters to respond to emergencies. Station 1 has had a number of improvements over the years to keep the station operational. However, there are limited accommodations at Station 1. There's a shared locker room and bathroom for male and female staff, while at headquarters, there's accommodations for both male and female employees with separate locker rooms, showers, bathrooms, etc. At some point, the town should consider replacing Station 1 to provide appropriate work-living quarters to meet the needs of our staff. That has become very diverse over the past 10 years. Moving left to right on the bottom, Tower 2 is assigned to headquarters, replaced in 2012, has all the up-to-date safety system, is in excellent condition. Engine 1 is Central Street, scheduled for replacement in 2024. This vehicle has served its purpose. It does not have any of the current safety features of the other vehicles, but it is well maintained. Engine 2 operates out of headquarters, replaced in 2015, has all the most current safety features, including airbags, head protection, ABS brakes, all the things that are common in our passenger cars, but they're optional in fire trucks, and the fire service is moving in the direction of enhanced safety for passengers. This keeping our staff safe is critical, and the new engine meets new high environmental emission standards requirements. Engine 3 on the right operates out of headquarters. The replacement was 2019, delivery for 2020 of the fall. It was funded last year, and I'll give you an update later in the presentation. Fire prevention services provided. We provide in-service inspections. Lieutenants and engine company personnel assigned to conduct basement to roof inspections to identify potential hazards and maintain staff familiarity with the layout of the structures in our community. There are 12 inspectional routes, and each lieutenant is assigned a different route each period. So it takes 6 years for an officer to complete the entire commercial inspection process. We have iPads that they bring with them. They use it to collect all the site data and emergency contact information that we use for emergency responses. This information is provided to dispatch for recall and provide to us in response to an address. We also use the iPads to document any violations, so in future follow-up inspections by another lieutenant, they can reference the history of it and get the issues resolved. We have mandated property inspections and fire drills. Healthcare facilities are quarterly. School inspections are quarterly. As you see, there's 56 to 60 in each respective area. Inspectional permits. There were 945 inspectional permits issued. Smoke detectors inspections, fuel oil tank removals and inspections, welding permits, gas station permits, sprinkler installation permits, Chapter 304 liquor license inspections, fire alarm installation permits, and various other permits that are issued. Commercial and residential new construction and modification plan review, every new home, bedroom addition, commercial tenant refit, 40B plan review, college building construction and renovations, town building renovations are all reviewed and inspectable multiple times by both the building department and the fire department under the fire prevention regulations and codes. Current departmental priorities: enhanced training on fire suppression, EMS, hazmat, and other training to safely respond to emergencies. Management and supervisory training to be prepared as senior personnel retire at all levels within the department. Collaborative efforts with state and regional specialized teams will continue to develop. We are reviewing fire department policies, staffing, and equipment needs to meet national standards. In February 2020, the state of Massachusetts adopted National OSHA Workplace Standards, OSHA Occupational Safety Health Administration. We already follow the National Fire Standards based on National Fire Protection Association and industry best practices on maintaining records, training records, safety and accident records, equipment testing schedules, and equipment records and results. This has not been a major impact. The fire chiefs in Massachusetts are working collaboratively with OSHA to meet and maintain compliance with their regulations and process. Succession planning and training is critical as senior leadership and experienced personnel retire and other senior officers are close to retiring. We have provided extensive training to personnel at all levels within the department. Last year, for example, we had 2 deputy chiefs retire with over 32 years experience. We have other senior command officers that are eligible and or close to retirement within the next year or 2. We also have senior firefighters retiring. Having our personnel ready to replace such a significant loss of operational and institutional knowledge and experience is critical to the safe transition occurring within our department. Training all our personnel on the new challenges, such as training to respond to COVID-19 for patient and provider safety and equipment and building sanitizing practices. We have adapted and we will continue to adapt training during the COVID-19 pandemic to develop our officers and firefighters, keeping their skills proficient and keeping them healthy and safe during that time. Hiring process update. There are a number of retirements, as I mentioned previously, promotions, several unexpected transfers to their hometowns or larger departments, which has created 5 vacancies currently. We are proud to be a more diverse department, and over the past 10 years, we've hired more females and minorities than any previous period in our history, and we continue to move in that direction. There is a significant backlog of recruit academy openings, and which will delay the filling of the vacancies on shifts. However, we have worked with Metro Fire, Brookline, and Boston to establish academies outside the Mass Fire Academy system for Metro members, Metro community members, and we're working to try and schedule another academy to undo the backlog and get our people onto the department sooner than later. The entrance exam for the Wellesley was held on January 20, 2020, and we will resume the hiring process once the COVID impacts are resolved to allow for medical, physical testing associated with the hiring process. I recently learned that the physical abilities test is now opened up by the state, and we'll look to see that the medical testing can be done, pre-employment testing can be done, so that we can send people to the next phase of the hiring process. Community outreach. Wellesley Fire Department prides ourselves on the amount of community outreach we participate in. Wellesley Fire hosted a quote-unquote buzz-off to support one of our firefighters battling cancer. She was at a point in her treatment where her hair was beginning to fall out, and all her friends at Wellesley Fire and police wanted to show support. Wellesley firefighters and Wellesley police officers, our families, residents, and friends from across the state raised over $25,000 for the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. Joni Cullinan is a firefighter. She went on to do a cancer awareness program, work with professional firefighters in Massachusetts and the Mass Fire Academy that has shown across the state about cancer prevention techniques and ways to avoid and limit your exposures to carcinogens, where the number of occupational exposures to cancer has skyrocketed. We're doing everything we can through the purchasing of extractors, 2 sets of gear, wash machines, and changing of policies to make sure that personnel is safe as possible and we can minimize exposure to cancer. More community outreach. We host the September 11th Memorial. We'll see what the COVID restrictions hold for us. Even if it's limited and it's a very small group or spaced out group, we still plan on holding that service. We continue with safety education for students, and we'll do that under whatever the restrictions allow. We'll continue to train CPR for community groups and limited groups with masks and appropriate safety precautions. We'll continue safety education for seniors, again with appropriate safety precautions. We'll look to figure out how we can continue our open house and parade if that's possible. It was canceled this year. Maybe next year the conditions will change and allow for that to happen. We have two programs. We have the Local Emergency Planning Committee, which is co-chaired by Assistant Chief Jeff Peterson and Health Director Lenny Izzo. And they bring together all the various departments in town and the colleges to work on local emergency planning so that we can have a joint effort in terms of response to crises and disasters in the town. Additionally, Wellesley Fire Department supports our Citizens Emergency Response Team for community preparedness, which is a smaller group. Typically, they support us in the Boston Marathon in medical support across the street from headquarters. It's been a long-standing group of very good volunteers. Additionally, the health department, through a grant, was able to provide a sharps container and a sharps drop-off site. The fire department and the health department have always had a great working relationship. They provided that sharps container. People come in, they drop off the sharps, and in that way we got them out of the trash cycle so that they didn't end up at the RDF, and in this way it keeps everybody safe. More Wellesley Fire Department community outreach. Wellesley Community donations for PPE. Wellesley Communications Director Stephanie Hawkinson sends out a COVID-19 briefing every day, and she included a request to donate any PPE to the Wellesley Fire Department. Citizens and businesses' response was tremendous, donating over 10,000 gloves, over 5,000 surgical masks, sanitizers from individual bottles to one individual donating 17 cases of sanitizer. N95s, KN95 masks were donated. It was remarkable donations. Every day for weeks, residents would call the fire department and leave the donated items outside their door. These items are redistributed to area medical facilities, mostly nursing homes, given how hard these facilities were impacted and they have the most vulnerable people. Townwide employees that needed to be at work were provided these supplies to keep Wellesley moving. This effort was a tremendous example of how great this community is at helping others. And thank you to all the citizens and businesses that donated. On the right, the Wellesley Fire Department was provided a $5,000 grant by the Community Fund for Wellesley COVID Relief Fund to purchase KN95 masks for seniors and citizens with medical conditions. John Shula is shown modeling the KN95 for us. On the right is a package that was delivered to the seniors by the fire department. Each bag contained one KN95, a homemade mask, a few disposable medical masks, and directions to wear them. The firefighters would often stand by and make sure that they could don and doff the mask properly. The homemade masks were donated by a group of volunteers. The group of volunteers are named the Sewing COVID-19 Help Working Together. I'd like to say a special thank you to all of you for all your kind work in making these masks, and so many of them. The Masks for Seniors program was promoted, and the phone calls began to come in. Once we had sufficient numbers in various precincts, we began to deliver to the citizens. As of June 5th, over 1,200 KN95 and homemade cloth masks have been distributed to the seniors and others in our community. This is a team effort. Wellesley Fire Department, Council on Aging, Health Department, and Stephanie to get the word out about the Masks for Seniors program. We still have a lot of supplies and we'll fill any request. Our goal is to keep our seniors safe. Thank you for helping. Budget contract highlights. Cataldo ambulance has been operating out of fire headquarters and under the direction of the fire department delivers ambulance services in Wellesley. This is done without a subsidy, and they are now contracted through December 31st, 2022. That contract was recently signed. They are augmented by Wellesley Fire EMTs as well as Wellesley Police EMTs. The firefighters union contract was expired in June 30th, will expire on June 30th, 2020, and it has been, a tentative agreement has been reached and it's settled through June 30th, 2023. More of that will be addressed in Article 8 and further on in this presentation. Fire Department FY21 proposed budget is $5,618,388. The personal services increases are $352,406. The personal service budget increase reflects a one-time increase of 4% after reviewing comparable communities' firefighter compensation and increasing our personnel in a reasonable range with their peer communities. Year 1 also includes a 2% COLA. Years 2 and 3 of the contract have 2% COLA increases as well. Personnel retention and continuity of staff is critical to safe fire department operations. The $187,745 contractual personal services increases, and this includes the 40, 50, 60 series staff as well. The $120,000, 174 contractual holidays that firefighters are obligated to work, and longevity pay. The $44,487 shift coverages to maintain necessary staff and training due to the wage increases above. The expense budget increases were $13,450. $2,000 in training supplies, $3,000 in communications maintenance, $1,000 in medical expenses, $250 in office supplies, $3,500 protective clothing, $1,500 professional development conferences, $3,200 in medical supplies. The difference between medical expenses and medical supplies are that the medical supplies are the actual materials that we use on patients on scene at incidences. The FY21 capital request, $55,000 for portable radios that are outdated. They've gone beyond what their expected life expectancy. These are life safety pieces of equipment that keep communications between the firefighter and the outside command staff. It also keeps in communication between dispatch, very important. $49,000 command vehicle is a scheduled replacement vehicle. It was previously scheduled for replacement last year. It was pushed out to this year. The next items are $25,000 in office and station furniture replacement. We're working hard to replace any of the cloth or fabric style furniture that exists in the station with different types of materials that can be wiped down and disinfected. This is a wider scope effort to make the station as clean as possible and at the same time replace outdated furniture. $5,000 is for the townwide defibrillator replacement program. This is a 3-year plan. So every year we replace a number of defibrillators. A defibrillator is approximately $2,500. We monitor defibrillators throughout many departments throughout the town. We have a personnel that goes and checks to see that their batteries are current, that the pads are current, and we oversee them to make sure that everything's good to go in the event that they're needed. So there is some townwide supervision of the AEDs that are out in place. Some departments have chosen to supervise their own directly, but we still supervise a wide number across the town and very proud to do that. I'd like to update you on an FY20 capital project. This was the most significant item brought before you last year. That was also purchased with the assistance of both Wellesley and Babson College, which we truly appreciate. It was a replacement of Quint 3. This vehicle was funded last year and it's being constructed and we expect delivery in 2020. However, like many factories, this factory is not immune from the COVID issues and it has slowed up their production line. They're working to get them back up to speed, and we'll keep you posted when the vehicles are completed. It'll go through a series of reviews and inspections before we accept delivery on it, and then some training will be conducted before it's actually put into operations. This concludes the presentation for the fire department. Thank you for supporting the Wellesley Fire Department. Be well, and if you need us, please call. We're happy to serve you.